Hi everyone, my name is Philippe Ducharme. I'm senior producer on Dead Space. With me here today is Roman Campos Oguera, the creative director on the project.
Hello everyone.
T'es prêt, Roman?
Toujours.
All right, let's get started. So what we're about to do today is a bit unorthodox for us at EA. We're going to give you, with this live stream, a first look at some very early, and I'll say very, very early footage.
Very, very, very early.
Footage from the game. But we wanted to do this because we want to be open with the communication and open about how we're tackling this game. However, I want to be clear, this is not a gameplay reveal. We're not going to be showcasing very long sections of the game or one full chapters. We want to give you all an early look at the game that we're making to be able to see reactions across the community about the game that we're making. And there's two reasons why we want to do that. First, at Motives, one thing that really is important for us is that we want to create a game that excites players. And I think that SARS Squadrons was actually a great example of this. It came from the nostalgia that the team had over the X-Wing versus TIE Fighter franchise, and it carried through in the experience that they created. And it's a little bit what we want to do for Dead Space. We see this project, and we want to make sure that we're honoring the legacy, that we stay true to the source, true to the original. And for us, the best way to do that is to engage with the community early on, to be able to give you first look inside, like behind the curtain, and see the game that we're making, and be able to think, to see how we're tackling it. And we've actually been doing this since the very beginning of the project. We got in contact during the conception phase with the community council that we've created, some hardcore Dead Space fans that remain active even after years of inactivity for the Dead Space franchise. And with this community council, we've established a relationship where we gave them first look at some of the executive presentations that we were making within EA, some of the creative brief, game design documents, first playable footage of the game. And in exchange, we asked them brutal feedback, like, what are we making? Is it good? Is it what fans expect out of this remake?
Where does it suck?
Where does it suck, like, most importantly? And for this live stream today, we're actually thrilled to have two of the Community Council members with us, joining us. So we have Jackie Butler and Khalif Adams joining us for this live stream. Hello, Jackie. Hi, Khalif.
Oh,
how are you?
Oh, my
goodness.
Hi,
Phil. Hi, Roman. We're doing great. Very excited to be here.
Excited to see you both, seeing that you're all hanging out in Montreal, looking good. I see they got you all made up, looking cute. I love it. I appreciate it. I'm Khalif Adams, one of the hosts, or the host of the Spawn on Me podcast. I'm super excited to be here. I'm a huge Dead Space fan. I've been waiting for this for a very long time. And I get to rock with one of my favorite content creators on the planet. Jackie, let the folks at home know a little bit more about you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie Butler. I'm a cardiac nurse extern, soon to be RN, as well as a streamer and content creator here on Twitch. Let me tell you, Khalif, Roman, Phil, there's very few games that I wish I could experience for the first time again. One of those is obviously Dead Space. So I'm literally over the moon to be here. No pun intended, you know what I'm saying? So let's get straight into it and talk about the Dead Space remake.
All right, let's get started.
So we're gonna dive right in with the classic dark and claustrophobic headbanger hallway. Shown here on the screen is what Dead Space looked like in 2008. Although revolutionary for its time, let's see the design process and how it looks now. Roman and Phil, can you show us more?
Yeah, so actually, one of the first things that we did was we went back to the legacy assets for the game. So we wanted to recreate with the proxies, the full ship, the Ishimura, to recreate it. And then our art team went in and started an added level of details to the environment so that we could have a higher fidelity and start seeing what can the game look like on next generation of consoles. So we went in, added details, then started working on the shaders and the materials to try to have that metallic look that we were after, and just like to get the right materials out of the environment. From there, we did like a first pass at lighting to try to get the mood right, because the atmosphere of Dead Space is pretty much on lighting, and then on VFX to try to get like that full picture of what are we after, what are we trying to achieve for the game. And it looks great on a few stills, but it actually looks way better in game.
So what type of engine did you guys use to create this? And what graphics are you aiming for?
Great question, Jackie. We're using Frostbite as our dev engine, and we're going for obviously IN graphics, IN fidelity, and our focus is on lighting, VFX, and just overall audio experience to make sure that we would deliver the right atmosphere, something that was key in the original game.
Yeah, so I know we have a real live functional build currently. Can you bring that up? And this again is a work in progress.
So yes, that's super early. Like it's end of pre-production build. We are just starting production, so it's really far from being done. But one thing we really wanted, and you touched about it, it's really wanted to make sure that we nail the ambience, and not only the look, the lightings, the VFX, the fog, but also nail that ambience. Give you the feeling that you're in the Ishimura, you're inside those dark corridors. And not only it's in engine, it's actually in game. And here's my boy Isaac. So that rig, that armor, it's not the original, it's a new one, it's still work in progress, it's gonna be improved a lot, but it gives a first taste at Isaac Clarke in the remake. And look, here we are.
Wow.
I mean, the lighting, everything looks phenomenal. The smoke.
It looks so good.
Very much what we should be expecting at this point from next generation graphics.
It's really Dead Space, but like you never saw it, I think.
So it has been almost 13 years, since the original game came out, the original Dead Space. Why is this remake happening now, and what exactly is this remake? Can you elaborate on that?
So one thing that's important for us, and that's why it's for PS5, Xbox Series, or for PC, is that it's not about one thing. Like Dead Space is a super strong experience, and so it's really about improving on a lot of different elements to create that original but still new experience, whether it's the new lighting and ray tracing, whether, like Phil mentioned, it's about audio, whether it's improvements to gameplay and having new ZeroG, or as you're going to see maybe later, improvements and dismemberment and how you actually deal damage to the enemies, whether it's about having an unbroken and continuous experience. It's about doing a lot of improvements and how we enrich that experience. And so that's really what that remake is about.
Yeah, because, we have been looking at Reddit, we've been looking online, and there has been some people in the community noting that, the game already stood the test of time. This is still considered to be, quote unquote, a perfect game.
Exactly. And so, like we show, like I mentioned, what's really important for us, it's to capture that original ambience, that original experience, but like you've never experienced before. And that's really the age we're after, I believe.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier, like we want to make sure that we're honoring the legacy. That's one of our production pillars that we have for the game. But at the same time, we want to make it relevant for today. Like the games have evolved a lot since the original Dead Space came out. From obviously graphics, which is like the easiest way to see how it changed, but also as far as systems.
Not easiest necessarily to make.
Well, no, not easiest to make. No, that's for sure. But as far as systems, as far as just opportunities for gameplay and how to leverage it, that's something that we think that, given the evolution that Dead Space had within its own franchise with Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3, but also how the franchise, how just the game industry evolved outside Dead Space, there's opportunities for us to make a better, a more complete experience, let's say.
Yeah, I'm just blown away at how good everything looked from just even that small glimpse into the engine. It feels like, I know you're saying it's really early, but it's just, this is really, my goodness, what is it going to look like when you wind up getting kind of further down the line? So that's really fantastic.
We might keep some surprise for later, yeah.
Nice.
So can you please now show the stat comparison of the original 2008 game versus the current project? Yeah, that's a massive difference. You remember your favorite game in a certain way and you think that it looks great, but then when you see improvements, it's Wow, big difference. Big difference.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see just how far we've come in terms of technology, right? Like it was only 13 years ago, but it seems like we've gone leaps and bounds where we're able to kind of take all the kind of small details you're seeing on the newer model of Isaac is really fantastic to see.
What are your current goals for the remake exactly? How are you going to honor the legacy of Dead Space? Because that is huge shoes to fill. Bar is set high.
Well, it is definitely, and like the team is actually extremely passionate. We're referencing a lot to the original game, having a lot of looks at it, and like I said, by making it relevant, we're looking at different games and what they did, and see how can we bring it back inside Dead Space. So, like one of the example is something that we're trying to do is to have an unbroken experience, to make the game fully seamless. And how can that create an experience where the player's even more immersed within the game than was previously the case?
And it's really one of the big objectives that we have for that game is that from even before the start screen till the end of the game, the rolling credits, to never have any break of experience, to have that full and uninterrupted sequence shot. And so that, of course, has a lot of impact on what we're building. And just starting with how the Ishimura and the structure of the game is built, because we don't want any cut. So there should be no loading. How the full ship should be walkable from end to end, seamlessly, etc. There's a lot of elements that start to unfold when you start to think the game through that lens of really unbroken immersion.
And like really from the get-go, like we gave ourselves an objective. Like if possible, could we have players wanting to take the controller and play for 12 hours straight, never putting that down, not even going to the bathroom, just because they were so immersed within the game. And that's what we're after. That's like the type of immersion that we want to be able to achieve.
That's going to be a back-of-the-box quote. You can't go to the bathroom on the back of the box. I appreciate it. But I also heard you talk about, how you want to double down on, or at least really focus in on what makes Dead Space fantastic around the horror aspect of the game, too. I'd love to hear more about that.
So, of course, horror, it's one of the main pillar of Dead Space. And it's about a lot of elements in Dead Space. So, of course, the story, it's about that. It's that iconic survival horror story. You're alone, trapped on that hulking spaceship. But the main element for us was to get the ambience right. And so that's why we started with elements like, for example, the Headbanger Corridor or the workshop that you can see in the teaser, is to make sure that we capture the ambience. It's about more than just the gore or the monsters or the story or the character. It's really about the Ishimura and how isolated and stressed you feel when you're inside that ship. And so that's really an important pillar for us. And so that's why we want you to be fully immersed and to never be able to pull out from that experience.
The pacing was so good. Like it was a master class in pacing, the original Dead Space, to keep you on the edge of your seat all the time. And that's actually something that we challenged the team early on. Like, how can we make sure that we don't break that recipe, that we don't break the right amount of nothing happening that's going to actually increase the level of tension when you're playing. And so far, the team's been taking that challenge and doing an amazing job at it. And it's always something that's at the back of our head in every review that we're doing, and they're delivering amazing work on it.
It's one of the things, it's how can we keep players constantly on their toes, and we might have some surprise coming on that, and on how much you can be surprised even when you're doing something you already know. It's a lot of fun.
So what would this stream be without Necromorphs? Isn't that what we are really here for? When we say cut off their limbs, we want you to experience every gory detail of dismembering iconic Necromorphs. Now we will showcase our Dismemberment gym. The dev team has created a peeling system that will be implemented into combat. Would you mind telling us more about the original system versus the new system and what peeling actually means?
I think actually something that's very important, as you can see with the feed, like it is definitely a gym, and it's intentional that we showcase this in a gym. because we're so early with it. Visually, we're not at the right level of quality where we want to achieve, but we want to showcase functionality here. That's what we want to talk about, and what is the system that we have in mind for peeling, like you said.
So obviously, same thing, it's a really early build. It's a gym. Everything that you see is work in progress. It's first implementation. A lot of VFX are missing. A lot of those modelizations are not final and missing a lot of things like flesh tearing, etc. But one thing that is important for us that I just show, it's first, of course, Dismemberment is back. And it's back with all the depth and fun you can have in that space. But one thing we wanted to, and those are the only things, those are the things you can say only on Dead Space. One of the thing we wanted to improve about that experience is when you're using a weapon that is not a carving weapon, like something, not like the plasma cutter. Plasma cutter is really fun to use. You can just shoot at anything, and really you have that instant feedback of the limb getting cut, etc. But when you had a different weapon, knowing how much damage you were dealing to the enemy, how was he reacting, etc., it was not necessarily as visceral and as clear as the original. And so that's the thing we're working on at the moment, and we call peeling. It's basically that body destruction technology that we're developing that is allowing us to really remove, so at the moment, the flesh out of the bones of the enemy, and to give you a good sense not only of gore and horror and ambience, but also of how much damage am I dealing to that opponent. Is my weapon actually useful against this one? How close is he to die? And that's something for me that is really interesting. And so when we were speaking about why doing a remake and where can we improve, those are an example of what we can do, is that we don't have anymore to choose which feature we actually want to push. We can have dismemberment. We can have much more precision and body destruction. We can have seamless loading for the whole ship, etc., etc. And that's something really, really interesting for us. And another thing that is actually really interesting is that system. So again, for the moment, it's really early. For the moment, we're only showcasing it on the naked slasher, so you only see it with the flesh, but of course later it's going to support like the claw, body armor, different layers, weak points, etc. But it also improves one of the core of shooting in Dead Space, which is around the precision, and not only the precision of my weapon, but as an example, the precision of the plasma cutter. And so if I was to shoot, let's say, on that leg, then if I'm shooting here, I'm not going to cut the leg, because I'm not shooting at the place where the bone is actually visible. If I want to cut that leg now, I need to be much more careful and precise in my aiming and in the shooting. And then, for us, what is interesting is that it opens a whole new layer of shooting and combat loop, where you can have some weapons that are better at carving through the enemies, some weapons that are better at cleaning them. Oh, sorry for the mic. Some weapons that are better at cleaning the enemy and removing the flesh and the tissue, etc. And that's something really, really interesting for us.
Anytime Roman speaks about Dismemberment, he gets overly passionate and expressive about it. Even with the team internally, he shows a lot of passion in that topic. So
yeah,
I can just imagine you being on the phone and talking to somebody who's like, "Yeah, we need to get more body dismemberment and more destruction on the body," and people are just like, "What in the heck is he talking about?" But it looks great.
Sometimes,
yeah, it looks amazing.
Sometimes there's weird moments like that in the team where you do a meeting about dismemberment and blood and gore and dead bodies, and you misspell somebody's name and you're inviting somebody else to that meeting that is not part of the team, and they go like,
oh no. Brace yourself, strap in. So Roman, on what level can we expect the detail of filleting necromorphs, essentially? How detailed are we talking here?
In terms of the body destruction, the peeling, it's going to be really super detailed, as we can see on that video. So that's the first steps of that technology. If the video is playing, we which is not, I think, at the moment. Yeah. Yes, here we go. You can see that it's really super precise. It's exactly where you're aiming, where you're shooting. It's exactly respecting the shape of the projectile at the enemy. If it was fire, you would see it going through the body of your enemy and burning the flesh, etc. It's the peeling, that body destruction system is going to be super precise. In terms of pure dismemberment, and then where you're able to cut the Necromorphs limbs, here where we want to improve it, because we feel like characters like the Slasher, for example, it was already really deep in terms of gameplay. Like there are different behavior based on whether you were cutting the legs or the head, where they go berserk, etc. So here our goal, it's for enemies like Slasher, it's not necessarily to improve or give more precision where you can cut the enemy. It's more to try to extend that fun and that depth to other enemies that tend to be a bit lighter in terms of dismemberment and behavior, like for example the Infector or the Brute. Like I can't wait to show you when you get behind the Brute and you start to peel his back and dig for weak points.
Oh, I can't wait.
That's the type of improvement we're going for.
Get to the weak points.
Yeah, I love the peeling of the different layers of skin down to the organs and bones, especially coming from a medical background. It's just insane to see. The level of expectation is very much up here, and we'll hold you accountable.
One thing that you might have noticed quickly in the prototype, and that's something we want to experience a bit more. We want to dig a bit more. It's when you actually cut a limb, but there's still a layer of flesh. We don't necessarily always want the limb to go out and fly away. And sometimes we keep it attached by the layer of flesh or tendrils to the body. So currently that VFX is missing, but the technology to keep it attached and dangling is there. And so you can grab those with kinesis to make it a bit faster to dismember them, and then you can throw them back to the opponent. I think we'll speak a little bit more about kinesis after, but that's also the power and weapon synergy loop. That's also something we want to try to improve in the Dead Space remake.
Yeah. By bringing it back, like it gives you an option to. We actually took back the impalement from Dead Space 2, so it gives you an option to actually impale your enemies that's right in front of you and using it as a projectile against your enemies. So it gives you more creative opportunities to kill your enemies, really.
So that means that we're going to go from we're going to continue to have cut off your limbs, and we're going to have dangle your limbs too. Be the thing that people are going to start screaming in the chat pretty soon. One of the other, you talked about, how some of these pieces of tech are adding to the improvements of what this remake is going to wind up being. I'd love to hear you kind of talk a little bit more about, some other improvements that we've seen, not only in scale in terms of, rooms that we've seen before. We saw the headbanger room a second ago, but I want to dig into, and let's pull up the ZeroG Therapy room, which I think also showcases this kind of next layer of where you're thinking about going from an improvements perspective. Just talk a little bit about, where you're kind of seeing this move. We see Isaac kind of in the space right now, floating around the space, probably going to show off some of his thrusters and stuff in a minute. I'd love to hear more about, kind of where you're thinking about in terms of improvements in this layer too.
So for us, really, going back to the original Dead Space, it was something that we felt, so again, super early build, that we felt we could actually improve in terms of experience and immersion. It's the ZeroG and how you would move around in ZeroG. And that's something that was really good and improving the experience in Dead Space 2 and 3 that we felt was really missing in the original Dead Space. And so that's why we took that mechanic of flying around when you're in ZeroG and with much more 360-degree freedom. And now you can play Dead Space and really feel you're in space during those moments. And so also that's a mechanic that we're starting to improve a bit on. Like, for example, now you can interact as you fly around. You can go into tighter corridors, those kind of things. But also, it allows us to revisit some of the old content and create new ways to navigate, new paths. Like here in the original, you would have gone back through that door, through where you came from. And here, it allows us to create new environments with eventually new challenges to surprise also the people that know the game and will be like, oh, wait, what's that? What's that? And now we're going to surprise you.
So it's really delivering on the fantasy of being in space, making sure that we're able to use that and revisiting all the places in the game in the original where there was ZeroG, which was the Superman jump back in Dead Space 1, and now applying full 360 motion and finding ways to provide a real challenge in those type of environment. And so far, there's been very good ideas like this one about how can we reach reverse through the same environment and provide something new for the players. So we're definitely on the lookout for these opportunities when we revisit each of these gameplay sections.
Love that.
Yeah, for me in the original game, that ZeroG Jump was very disorienting. I don't know if anyone else agrees with this, but it made me very disoriented. So seeing quality of life improvements carried from 2 back into 1 with the thrusters and the movement is incredible. That's a huge improvement as is. You know, it's funny. The community quickly recognized and deciphered the Morse code from the Ishimura in the original reveal that we had. People figured it out right away from the blinking flashing lights. But, you know, we didn't see any comments on the subreddit or online about the thrusters on Isaac. There was nothing. Where was that? Look
Maybe
alive,
it was too
chat.
subtle, but
But yeah.
But no, it's really interesting because then also, like I was mentioning, it allows us to revisit to the ZeroG areas, potentially create new ones, and add a whole set of different challenges, that were not present in Dead Space 1, that we can now create or recreate because you have all that freedom of motion across that one big ship.
Yep. There was also one question and topic that was prevalent throughout the community that we saw time and time again, and that is the topic of microtransactions. You know, they were apparent in Dead Space 3, so at this point, can you please be transparent and honest regarding microtransactions, and you know, if that will make an appearance in Dead Space 1 Remake?
so very, very clear, no microtransaction, none at all. No, not
That's what I'm
like
talking
you
about.
mentioned already in an interview, I think, yes, no, we don't have that in the remake.
That's awesome.
Good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good to hear. I think everybody
So
in the
this time
chat
it's
and everybody in the community.
on the record.
Yeah,
Very-
it's on the
Yeah, I hope
record
the crowd
now.
is going wild. That's what we want to hear, okay?
That's 2 back of the box quotes that we've gotten for the stream already. That's easy. Well done. We've talked a lot about the improvements, things you kind of want to transition, ways you want to improve not only the gameplay but all the systems around it. But I think one of the things we haven't gotten a chance to talk about is how do you want to enrich the storytelling in this game as well? There's lots of different aspects to that, and I'd love to hear more thoughts about how you're trying to broaden and expand that as well.
So about the story and narrative as a broader topic in Dead Space. First, we are not going to change the foundation of the story because that story is really iconic and it's just a great sci-fi horror story. It's really about being Isaac and going into that hulking spaceship and being alone and isolated as you try to survive all those space zombies and stuff, and trying to find Nicole, trying to solve that mystery about the marker and stuff. All of those core themes of the originals, those are elements that not only we really want to continue to have in the game, but that we want to build on top of. The things that we want to enrich in terms of story or narrative, it's really about the bigger universe of Dead Space. We want to have more ties with what came after, whether it's the books, whether it's the anime, whether it's Dead Space 2. We want to put back the original in a better way, if I can say, inside that broader universe. And sometimes it can be through really soul message or the audio links or message in the environment. Sometimes it will be a bit more, and we can come to that later. But also one thing we wanted to make, we wanted to build a bit more on some of the characters around Isaac, whether it's Kendra or Ammon. And one thing for me that's really important in Dead Space is, as Isaac in the story, you're looking for Nicole, but actually in game, not so much, as we can say. So that's something we want to improve. We want to give you the means to actually look for her, and more than look for her, learn what happened to her during the outbreak. That's one of the elements that we're going to not necessarily improve in the story, but enrich, and that we want to add in the lore of the game.
I'm excited for that. Again, that's one of those things where, you know, the world building that you wind up doing through the ship and through those small audio logs, and you know the way you've kind of talked about, you know, bringing up some of those elements into kind of a next layer that we'll be able to get a chance to see. I'm just hyped to see where that's all going to land, because it's just going to be so cool to see what things, when you do that one-to-one comparison, it's like, oh, that thing got changed, got added there.
Yeah, I definitely had same questions on like my first playthrough and the many other times. It's like, what about the marker? What exactly did happen to Senior Medical Officer Nicole Brennan? I just want more of a cohesive, you know, make us whole narrative type situation, which I'm really hoping that you guys deliver on for this future game.
You will be one of the first to know, I think.
Oh, man, you know what I'm saying?
You know,
Touché.
council privileges. One of the other and kind of big questions that a lot of folks in the community have been wondering about, have been thinking about, and hopefully you'll be able to give us an answer on this one is, will Isaac be voiced in this game?
Well, that's a good question.
Excuse me, I have something to say.
Oh, what?
Excuse me, I have something to say. And it's been a long time coming. Hi, I'm Gunnar Wright, and I'm excited to announce that I'm reprising my role as Isaac Clarke for the remake of Dead Space 1. I want to thank all of you for allowing me to give Isaac a voice. I can't wait to suit up, throw that rig on, and do my best to try to keep Isaac alive. Although I've got a feeling some of you might try to keep me from doing that. In the words of Isaac Clarke, stick around. I'm full of bad ideas.
That's what I'm talking about. That's amazing.
Gunnar will be coming back.
He has to. He's Isaac.
Oh my goodness.
He has to. He has no choice, okay?
He has no choice. We made him do it. Phil Roman, share some thoughts on Gunnar coming back as Isaac.
Well, actually, it was one of the first things that we discussed with the council at the very beginning. Like, it was one of those open questions that we had. The initial Dead Space, there was obviously no voice for Isaac. But that was changed for Dead Space 2, Dead Space 3. Gunnar played an amazing part in this and delivered a great performance to create that character. And so for us, it was really a question like, oh, should we voice him for this remake or not? Should we stay? Which is why we engage in that conversation with all the folks on the council to try to see what, from your perspective, what was your opinion on this key topic? And what was clear was that, well, if he's back, it has to be Isaac. It has to be Gunnar. Isaac is Gunnar. And so we started to have these discussions with casting, and it became very, very clear rapidly that for us, that was the right angle to tackle this topic.
Yes, for me, so first, as a fan of Dead Space, before even being on that project, it was, yeah, Gunnar is Isaac. And revisiting Dead Space 1, amazing game, and revisiting Isaac, for me, we needed Isaac to be in Dead Space 1. And so that's why, for me, it was really important, and I was so happy to be able to have him be Isaac in Dead Space 1. But one thing that is really important for us, there is something that is key in the Dead Space theme and ambience. it's the isolation. You're alone. You're alone on that spaceship. You're alone facing those enemies. It's really that feeling of being isolated and alone. And sometimes hearing a voice, it fights against that. Like, you know, you're going to the basement, it's dark, and you're looking for the light, and you talk to yourself because it's reassuring, especially when you're alone in the dark. And so that's something we didn't want it to break in Dead Space. And so Isaac is only going to talk. One of the rules that we have is that Isaac is only going to talk when he's being talked to. He is going to respond. He's going to engage with Eamon. He's going to engage with Kendra and so on. He's going to be part of those discussions. But then, when he's alone, when you're alone in that dark corridor, he's not going to talk. He's not going to break that immersion. He's not going to break that feeling of isolation. But one thing that was important for us, for Isaac as a character, is he's not a space marine. He's a really specific type of character. Not only is Isaac, but also he's an engineer. And so we really wanted to give him more a sense of being the main character of that story, giving more sense of agency on what's going on. And so when there's a new objective, when there's a discussion about how are we going to blow that barricade, how are we going to restart the engine of the ship, we wanted Isaac to be part of that discussion. We wanted Isaac to be part of the solution. He's the expert. He's the space engineer. And so that's why also we wanted to give him a voice. We wanted to improve the character on that perspective. So here it is. Gunnar is back.
Couldn't be happier about that.
We couldn't either.
Jackie, any more thoughts about Gunnar being back in the game?
No, I'm very excited. I mean, this is expected. The council very much told you guys that that is exactly what we wanted, and I'm really glad that followed through, everything came through. Very excited.
Yeah, I am hyped. Even though I did not get the part, it's okay, Gunnar. We will let you rock as Isaac this time around. You know, Dead Space 2 remake. I will be Isaac at some point.
You're a close second, Khalif. Close second.
See, this is why I love you. I appreciate. See, this is again another back of the box.
Honest.
Again, this is the reason why we do this kind of work. We're almost out of time, but I want to give you two gents a little bit of time just to share again any last thoughts you have with the folks here watching the chat and everybody else out in the land who are Dead Space fans right now.
Yeah, well, one thing, like I said at the beginning, the purpose for us to do this is to hear your feedback, hear your thoughts. So hopefully we've shown a few assets, we've talked about the game. Hopefully that triggers some discussion that we're able to look and see and understand what's important for the community. So that's really the purpose for us, and we hope that the community is going to engage so that we can get that feedback back.
And another important element really for us is that we've started a little bit less than a year now on that project, and we start to have some amazing things, I think, and its production is just starting. And I'm incredibly amazed and proud of everything the team is doing. Like, it's one of the most amazing teams I've worked with, and I want to thank them again and again for everything they're doing. And not only because I do believe it's amazing, but also because it's really difficult time for building all of those things in that context of the podium and for the pandemic and working from all and all those things. And so being able to see all those assets, all those arts, the gameplay they are building in that context, I'm just like, wow, I'm blown away. Like,
the team's amazing.
Thank you very much, guys.
That was a really beautiful concept art you had on the screen there. It was medical. It was stunning. I can't wait for everyone to see that in the actual game shipped.
Yes.
This is so pretty. I want this as a desktop background.
Right? Seriously. I don't want to live there, but I want that as a piece of my desktop art for sure.
Yeah.
We can hook you up, Jackie. We can hook you up.
Nice. Jackie, before we get up out of here, any last words for the folks at home?
No, you know, I had a wonderful time, and I want to thank Motive and EA, you know, for allowing Khalif and I to be a part of this wonderful community. Thank you, Roman and Phil. And, you know, also thank you all the unsung heroes, you know, on the dev team working hard to make this ship for the best possible thing, you know. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'll just end out and say again, you know, Phil and Roman and the rest of the team, you all are putting in such great work to bring this game back to life in a fantastic way. I, as a huge fan, am extremely excited to dangle their limbs and do all of those things within that game. And we hope that also our friends and our compadres over in the council as well. We hope we did you proud today. Everybody at home who's watching the stream, make sure you go check out Dead Space Twitter account so you can get some more updates when they go live. And again, thank you so much for being here today. Take care, and we'll see you.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye.